And on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560. The Answer.
Who knew that retail theft in America is a $94 billion epidemic?
Wow.
Happening all the time. In fact, Dan brought this to us yesterday, the day before. My good friend Kyung Lau, who works for CNN, she was in a store at a Walgreens in downtown San Francisco, and while she and the camera crew were there, while they were sitting there filming, 3 people helped themselves to stuff and just walked out the door.
Richie Greenberg walked into a San Francisco Walgreens when he saw in the frozen food section this.
Chains, heavy chains that went from padlock to padlock on both sides of the doors, and this was bizarre, something I'd never seen before. This is just more icing on the cake, telling us that rampant crime has become a regular part of life.
So typical that in the 30 minutes we were at this Walgreens, we watched 3 people, including this man, steal.
Did that guy pay? Did that guy pay? He didn't pay.
Walgreens says this Richmond neighborhood store with aisles of products like mustard locked behind plexiglass has the highest theft rate of all their nearly 9,000 U.S. stores, hit more than a dozen times a day. When thieves turned to cleaning out ice cream and frozen burritos, workers grew so frustrated they resorted to the chains. They were ordered down by corporate because of the negative messaging. But Walgreens isn't the only retailer impacted in San Francisco.
I'm gonna have to ask an employee for help.
At this store, frozen food is controlled with a cable lock. Fake eyelashes locked behind plexiglass, along with lotion and nail polish.
I mean, it is unbelievable what is happening in America.
Yeah.
So, a man who wrote a great article, Myth of the Starving Shoplifter. Are they motivated by economic hardship, hunger? What's the real reason? And with that, we welcome to the program Steve Malanga. You can follow him on Twitter at CJSteven. He's contributing editor to the City Journal and senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute. And again, the column that we mentioned is Myth of the Starving Shoplifter. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
Good. So did you see that piece on CNN? Did you watch it by any chance?
Well, I just heard it.
Okay.
Right now. And it's actually typical of pieces that we're seeing. You know, we've had writers do this for us, actually go in. And one writer was so distressed by what she was seeing in San Francisco that she decided to steal stuff herself and see if she could get away with it. And it is a bizarre situation that is emerging in many of our cities. It's not limited to cities, but it's particularly particularly strong in cities like Baltimore, Chicago, San Francisco, New York.
Yeah, but why are they doing it? Is this a hunger issue? Like they're that desperate that they have to go in and grab themselves a frozen burrito?
No, absolutely not. What this is what's called organized retail crime. This is being used primarily by gangs. There are 2 motivations for this. The first is that states and cities made reforms starting about 10 years ago where they increased the amount that you could actually shoplift without being charged with a felony. So you can, in many places, you can steal up to $1,000 to $1,500, and it's still only considered a misdemeanor. They also did things like reform bail laws so that if you just are arrested for a misdemeanor, you don't have to post any bail. This became a big incentive for people to just start stealing. In addition, what we have now is this world where you can get rid of this stuff on places like eBay and other online shopping forums. So there's now organized retail crime. About half of all of those numbers that you were, quoting before, the size of retail crime in America, is basically organized crime. And they're selling things. Gangs are selling things at big profits, obviously, because they're paying nothing for it.
Right.
And it's happening really around the country, but it's really focused particularly in cities that have done things like defund the police, or that have hamstrung the police. Many police won't even respond to some of these, like calls from retailers, because if they arrest people, they're just going to be left right back on the street. So the incentives to do this are right there. And what happens when you incentivize this? You get more of it.
Wow. I mean, so I just real quick, I just wanted to circle back to one of your writers. Did she eventually go back and pay for the items, or?
But yeah, she didn't actually, in other words, she wanted to see how far she could get and how easy she got outside the store, and then turned around, and went back. But it was distressing. But also, one of the points that she makes, which is increasingly becoming clear in places where you can just walk out of these stores, because now there are actually places like California where they're contemplating passing laws saying that employees should not intervene in this.
Lululemon.
Because they could get hurt. So, in other words, rather than saying, let's increase the penalties for this, they're saying, oh, by the way, store employees don't get involved in this. And so as a result, people are talking about how if they go into a store and pay for merchandise while they see people just walking out, they feel like suckers. And they are suckers, because retail crime, the only way that it works is that the people who legitimately pay for things, you're paying for the losses of these big retailers.
Well, I mean, that happened at Lululemon. It happened at Lowe's. There was a 60-year-old woman who's worked there for 30 years. She went out, and all she was doing was videotaping the thieves so she can get a plate number to give to police. And she got fired for that.
Right.
So,
Right. Well, and there have been security guards and others who have been killed. There have been several deaths associated with this right now. And what's happening, where we are now in this, because this has been going on for several years, is we are now at the point where what retailers are doing is closing stores in these places. Walmart talked about closing 4 stores in Chicago. San Francisco's Whole Foods, the organic market in San Francisco. You would think that San Francisco would be the perfect market for Whole Foods.
Right.
They got out of that. Rite Aid, the CEO of Rite Aid recently said you cannot stop retail crime in New York City. They're closing stores there. So now we're going back to the era in the 1980s when many neighborhoods and cities lacked fundamental stores. You couldn't find a Walmart. You couldn't find a chain store or grocery store in many of these neighborhoods. And we're actually going back to that as disorder rises across the country.
Yeah, it got so bad here in Illinois that our Attorney General created a shoplifting task force, a smash and grab task force.
we had a smash and grab last night at Target and where else?
Oh, yeah.
On 18th Street.
That's right.
It was a teen mob, a flash mob. They went in and took whatever they wanted. And the police were standing there, too.
Yeah. It's a big business. And one of the things, when I was state representative here in the state of Illinois, I worked with Rob Carr from the Illinois Retail Merchants Association. You want to know what the real numbers are? These are the type of people you want to call, because this is a huge business. And it's not just gang. It's organized the mafia as well. You got the Russians and a plethora of people.
Mexican.
Mexican cartels are getting in on this.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're actually importing people from places, through the southern border to be part of these gangs. So yes, it's a very sophisticated, a gang operation, and and when you read some of the ways they have multi-state operations, they steal in one state, then cross to the next state very quickly and sell the merchandise online. So it is very sophisticated, and the modern kind of technological world that we live in enables this, and it's all the more reason why you don't want to incentivize it with bad laws.
Right. So I wanted to jump on over to the Chicago city tax. So when people voted in Brandon Johnson, those lakefront liberals, I don't think they realize how this is going to work. So if you make $100,000 or more, you're going to get a flat tax of 3%.
Whoa.
So this is what it means. You fill out federal taxes, state taxes, and now a city tax. And you have to pay that bill. And so if you make $100,000, you're going to have to pay about $3,000.
Where does he have the power to do that?
Well, doesn't he have to go through? So
It's the
let's
state
ask-
legislative body.
State legislative, right? But that's his idea, and he's planning on going through with this. So, Steve, how many cities actually have a city income tax like that?
Well, there are actually quite a few, only a few big ones, but there are also smaller jurisdictions that have them. But here's the thing about a city income tax. If there's one thing that holds together a discussion about retail crime on one hand and city income taxes on the other hand. It's that there are two things that drive people the most out of cities, that create out-migration. There are two things that cities with the most out-migration in America have: high crime and social disorder, and high taxes. Right? So it's a deadly 1-2 combination. And you look at the cities with the highest income taxes: Philadelphia.
Yeah, they have a city tax.
Right.
Yep, New York City.
Right.
does.
Yeah. Well, yeah, New York City is pretty steep. And now you look at Chicago. Chicago, in the last census period, Cook County was the number 2 county in the country for out-migration. That's people leaving. Los Angeles County was number 1. So Chicago already has an out-migration problem. Frankly, many big cities have it because with COVID and remote work, even cities that are not, that don't have, let's say, a rising crime problem, they're losing people. This is a further incentive, for out-migration at a time when what cities need to be doing is trying to re-attract people back and re-attract companies back. Didn't, what's his name, Ken Griffin, right, with the...
He left.
Right, he left. So if you want to talk about out-migration, 2 issues: crime and taxes, and this is a bad 1-2 combination.
Well, if you make $500,000 and you live in the city, you have to give the government $15,000. Who's gonna they're just gonna give them money, and we don't have police protection like we used to. Our schools are failing, and there's litter everywhere, and we're putting migrants before Americans. I mean, and if you live nearby, if you just jump on over to Park Ridge, I think that this is going to help the suburbans, the suburbs, when it comes to house sales, don't you?
Well, it does to a certain extent, although ultimately what one finds, and New York is a good example of this. New York has had an income tax for quite a while.
Yeah, and do you know what
the state tax on top of a city tax, where you're already paying a federal income tax, now you're talking real money.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I think St. Louis has a 0.38%. Like St. Louis, maybe that's why St. Louis is empty, the downtown area, and people all live in the suburbs.
It's funny you talk about that, but what happens is you take a city like St. Louis, formerly a big industrial city. As we went through a deindustrialization in this country, the last thing you want it to do is raise taxes. One of the cities that has the highest property taxes in the country, the highest rate on top of high state income taxes? Buffalo, New York.
Wow.
Really?
The last city in the United States that you would want to have high taxes would be a city that people left because of deindustrialization, a city that needed to reinvent itself anyway, and yet that's what you get. So what happens is you get this tremendous decline in the population and the industrial base, and the people who remain, they're stuck paying some of the highest taxes in the country. So you don't really get the investment, the reinvestment that you need to create something new.
Yeah. One more angle about this shoplifting smash and grab. Our lieutenant governor here in Illinois, she was visiting, I believe, Cook County Jail, and there was a couple of people in there for shoplifting. Well, what she didn't talk about was that's what they got arrested for, but they were all on probation or parole for armed robbery, or something to that nature.
Yep.
Absolutely, yeah, 100%. Most of the people who are in like local jails for things like marijuana possession, or one of the reasons, they get arrested maybe, or they get stopped for that because of a complaint. But then warrant checks reveal that these people are wanted on far more serious crimes, and that's why they get held.
Correct.
And oftentimes, you're absolutely right. That does not make it into the news.
No.
So yes, that's pretty common. Yeah, that's a pretty common phenomenon.
All right, Steve Malanga, you can follow him at CJ Steven, STEVEM, excuse me. He's contributing editor to City Journal and wrote a wonderful article, Myth of the Starving Shoplifter. Steve, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
You've made the switch, and it feels so good. You've switched to Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Do you know the number one complaint homeowners have about remodeling? How long it takes. Rick here from Forever Remodeling. Home remodels that were supposed to take weeks often stretch out to months or even up to a year. That's because many remodelers bite off more than they can chew. They take on too many jobs, they get spread too thin, and you end up frustrated, waiting an eternity for your project to get done. Call Forever Remodeling instead. From start to finish, we show your remodel the attention it deserves. We limit the number of jobs we do at one time. This lets us dedicate ourselves to getting your project done on schedule while delivering a result that's better than you imagined. For a free consultation, call Forever Remodeling at 847-809-3355 or visit foreverremodeling.com. We do kitchens, baths, basements, additions, and more. That's the number foreverremodeling.com.
Right, I'm doing it. Where are you going? You want to leave this hot box? Because it's getting hot in here.
It's so hot in here.
So hot. No, I'm not doing that. It's so hot. Yeah, we've had a fun morning so far. I've watched you sweat through a few
95
shirts.
degrees?
I did.
It's 95 degrees in this place, probably. It's
I'm
hot.
sure. It's all right. They're trying to kill us slowly. It was slow
I could
gas
stop
leak.
sweating.
That didn't work. And now they're trying to get us with the heat. All right. Well, no, you can leave if you want to.
No, go ahead. I'll sit.
No. I'm just doing a balance of
Oh,
nature. You know,
hey, I
something
like
near and
balance
dear
of
to my
nature.
heart.
I will not leave.
Love balance of nature. Because why? It gives you more energy and helps you keep doing the things you love even as you age. 31 different whole fruits and vegetables in those bad boys. There's no preservatives, no dyes. So the green capsules are the vegetables, or red capsules are the fruit. And once you take it, you'll be addicted. So get the nutrition your body needs and the nutrition your body craves, because you're not eating enough fruits and vegetables on your own. And when you give your body the best possible fuel, you will have more energy, you're stronger, and you can think more clearly. The number to call, 800-246-8751. That's 800-246-8751. Use discount code Chicago. First-timers get free shipping and 30% off their first preferred orders of fruits and veggies. I got to get those travel size fruits and vegetables. I need the travel bottles in
I
my
took
life.
your fiber.
Excuse me?
The fiber.
Oh,
blue can.
yes.
I took it.
Are you using it?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
It's good.
It'll fill you up.
It's good.
If you try to, yeah.
Maybe if I go to Chicago, they'll test it. I haven't been in Chicago.
Don't give the government any ideas. All right, again, the number to call, 800-246-8751, or online at balanceofnature.com, discount code Chicago.